Hello. Is the audio good? Can everybody hear me? Yes, lovely. Okay. Well, this is exciting. Hello everyone and welcome to a Millinery Studio live stream. My name is Ilona, I'm a milliner based in London, and today I'm going to be blocking using 4 different block shapes, some wool felt and some buckram. I have no good segue to go past the intro, so let me turn on some music and we'll get started. Yes, hi everyone. This is my first live stream, so there might be a few delays, technical issues. Hopefully all the audio is good, hopefully all the video is good. I've got Matthew, who is my moderator, in the chat, so if anything goes wrong, let's ask him the questions. I can see your chat here and I'll be responding to the camera, so as I go along, if you've got any questions, just type them into the chat and hopefully I'll spot them in time and have a chance to reply. Okay, Matthew, is the music level all good? All good, okay, right. I guess I'm just gonna get my steamer out. Here's my steamer. Hopefully it won't be too loud as it steams. I am slightly worried. I may have to turn the microphone on while it's steaming. Is that on? Yep, that's on, the light's on, that's going. So there's my steamer. It's filled with filtered tap water just because I live in a hard water area and I don't want limescale buildup on the inside. So it's filled up with filtered water. Oh, it's going already. Almost ready to block. I'm going to start with this ring block. It's a vintage ring block, or it's even an antique ring block. I'm not actually sure how old it is. If I switch a camera angle, ta-da! You can see it here at the bottom, and hopefully that's focused enough for you. It's such an old block that it's got a few cracks in it. It's been repaired by the previous owner. It's got a hole here, and that's been... The steamer is as excited as we are. Yes, it is, and I'm really excited too. It's got a hole here that's also been filled with some either wood putty or wall filler, one of the two. Let me know, guys, if you want a block restoration video, because I've inherited some vintage antique blocks and some of them do need a bit of TLC. I can either do a video on that or I can just do it in my spare time, so just let me know. Oh, Mizan Ermgard wants to know about my camera and audio setup. Maybe post-stream we can do a bit of a photo shoot, husband, and we can post some pictures on my Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's @byilonamillinery. So I've got 2 cameras, and I have a microphone, and I have lots of wires around me. And I'm slightly worried about the wire setup because I have a kitten who likes to chew wires because she's teething. She's currently asleep. She may come to join us and chew the wires, and if I suddenly go offline, we know it's because of the kitten, because she's chewed through a wire connection. But hopefully that doesn't happen because she's asleep. Yes, restoration video. Okay, I will put that on my list of things to do. Gosh, it's really easy to get off track when filming live. When I'm not filming live, I have a script and I know exactly what I'm doing. But having you guys here to converse with me is just so much fun. I'm getting off track already, and if I don't start now, we'll be here for like 3 or 4 hours, and I'm sure that at some point we all need to have some dinner. So back to the blocks. This is the antique vintage ring block. I'm going to be blocking some Buckram on it today. Buckram is this stuff. Now, if you don't know what Buckram is, it's cotton, sometimes it can be linen, sometimes it can be hemp, canvas, that has got a starchy stiffener applied to it that's like a gum paste. And it activates when it's steamed with heat or water or softened in some kind of way, and it will take the shape of whatever thing you're putting it around. Now, some people will block Buckram with water, as in they'll spray it with water or they'll immerse it with water, and then they will stretch that around a shape. I personally don't like how sticky that gets on my fingers, so I just use steam, and I've always found that that works good enough. But we'll see if that's good enough for a ring block, because I have no idea what I'm doing with this. That's right, first stream, and I'm starting with something that I don't know anything about. Maybe I should revisit some life choices in that regard, but the steamer's still heating up. I turned it off earlier, so I'll have to turn it back on now. While that's heating back up again, back to the Buckram. It's cut on the bias, so you can see these lines here is where I was measuring it. So these are at a 45-degree angle to the grain of the fabric, which is going this way. You can see the fold here. This fold follows the grain of the fabric, and my pencil lines follow the bias 45-degree angle of Buckram. And what the bias does is it makes it easier to stretch around curves, which is what I'm doing today. The other thing I'm going to need for blocking, I'm really nervous to use pins in this block because it honestly looks like it could fall apart any second. So I was going to try and hold it in place using clothes pegs. And you know what, if it doesn't work, we'll just give up and move on to the next hat. So, right, should we see? Oh, maybe don't point the steam at the microphone. So what I'm doing now is just getting the Buckram nice and flexible, hopefully not too wet. It's becoming slightly sticky. You can see it, this end is a bit more floppy than this end that hasn't been steamed yet, so we're getting there. Oh, and the size of my Buckram bias strip, it's the outer circumference of my ring block with the width circumference of the ring with a little bit of extra added for overlap. I'm curious, where are you guys all joining me from? Tell me where you're from in the chat. Because I've already said I'm from London. I'm actually also half Russian, but we're not in Russia at the moment, we're in London. Northeast of England, lovely. Ooh, the Netherlands. Ohio in the USA. Someone else in Georgia. Now what I should have done is probably worn my glasses because my screen is over there and I can't quite see exactly what everyone is saying in the chat. Ooh, Rachel from La Bricalouse, a weather event happening. That's exciting. Or maybe dangerous. I hope you're okay. Oh, husband's gone to find my glasses. Oh, thank you, dear. Yes, Maison Garde. Europe does have a hat tradition. I think out of most places, kind of England and France. Okay, before I answer that, I'm gonna start trying to curve this around the block. I don't think it's wet enough. Oh, maybe it is. Look, guys. So as I pull on the bias, it's starting to take this curve shape. So just pull that round. Oh, maybe this will work better than I thought it would. The important thing is to try and keep it on that bias. So as I stretch, I'm going to be looking at it kind of straight on like this. And just make sure that it doesn't skip to one side or the other side. And hopefully, as I pull it round, the bottom, the inside even, will start to flap together and hold itself. So maybe I should explain why I'm doing this in Buckram rather than like something more fancy straight away. I've never worked with a ring block before and I've always wanted one. And so I thought if I block a Buckram shape, I could take it off the block and play with it. And then I'll be able to figure out what kind of shapes I'm able to make with the ring block. Oh, it's dry a bit, needs a bit more steam. Obviously, I'm going to keep my fingers out of the direct force of the steam, or try to anyway. You know, there's a phrase for milliners that we will have asbestos fingers. Now, if you don't know what asbestos is, it's a 1950s or mid-century or at some point material that is supposed to be kind of heat-proof, flame-proof and all that thing. However, if you breathe in the particles, it gives you cancer. So every asbestos thing in the UK is obviously dismantled, and when my parents moved into their house, they had an asbestos shed at the bottom of the garden because it was a 1950s new build, and they had to have people in hazmat suits and gear to come and take it away. Anyway, asbestos fingers just means that you no longer feel any heat sensation in your fingers because you worked with so much steam. And I haven't quite lost all the feeling in my fingers, but there is definitely more tolerance than I had before starting millinery. But still, don't point steamers at your fingers. And obviously, if you do have a burn, you should seek medical aid and seek first aid, run it under some cold water. Now, do you know what I haven't done? Because I've been chatting away. I've not covered the block in Clingfilm. Whoopsie. I should do that. Otherwise, when the Buckram dries, it will stick to the block, so. Luckily, I've got some Clingfilm here. Try to do that away from the microphone, otherwise that will sound awful in headphones. I guess I should shut up and concentrate. I'm going to have to cover the ring block in 2 parts of Clingfilm. Normally you try and cover the block with Clingfilm in a way that it doesn't have any like overlapping bulky bits, but because this is just a Buckram piece that is a test, I'm hoping this is going to be fine. It's just I have had in felt instances where you can see the creases in the Clingfilm show through because there's been quite a thick build-up. thing about cling film. Not all cling film is made the same. There's some cling films that just won't stick no matter what you do. They won't stick to themselves, they won't stick to surfaces, and I still haven't found, well, I had a really good cling film and then that ran out and I can't remember where it was from. And I bought this replacement and it's really not as good. It does not want to stick to itself, but I'll use it up because I have it. And then I'll go back to looking for another type of cling film. Okay, one more bit. Okay, that looks like it should be protective enough. Oh, thanks for the tip. Yes, professional cling film from supply houses, restaurant supply houses. That's a very good idea. I will look into that. Thank you. Just take my sip of tea. Well, my throat gets very dry. Anyone else drinking tea? Coffee. Coffee. Is it the morning in your part of America then? Because if I drank coffee now, I would not be able to go to sleep. In fact, one would probably say I shouldn't be drinking caffeinated tea at 4 o'clock either, but oh well. I shall keep pulling the block. Is the, oh, it's 10:30 or 11. Oh, 11 a.m.-ish. Yes, you see, 11 a.m. is when I have second breakfast and second coffee. Is the steamer playing havoc with the microphone, or can you still hear me okay above the steamer? In fact, let's switch. Let's switch to this view. Oh, yeah, thanks husband, all good. Okay, I'm going to have to start making some decisions and putting in some clothes pegs or some pins or something. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, great, that's good to know. Okay, you see, I'm going to end up with a little bump here. Oh, switch back to the other view. Here's the bump problem I was talking about with the cling film. Oh, in fact, you can see it even better on camera than I can see it. There's this bump from cling film here. That's really annoying and unfortunate. Ah, yes, so, hi Lisa, thanks for joining. Don't worry, you haven't missed much. We've just been talking about, asbestos. Never mind. Yes, the ring block, it's one of those things where if you read a lot of vintage millinery books, it'll say to you that a ring block is one of those kind of essential first blocks that one might want to collect if you were thinking of being a milliner. I don't see very many modern books recommending a ring block, so when I started I didn't have a ring block. And this one only came into my possession very recently, and this is the first time I'm using it. I'm experimenting with some Buckram here, just to see what it will look like. Yes, it will impact the end product when it's bumpy, so if this was something that I was making that wasn't an experiment, I would have tried to do the cling film a bit better. So yeah, but because this is an experiment, it doesn't really matter. Back to the ring blocks. They are definitely more of a kind of a 30s, 40s and 50s shape, or in the 60s you could have used them to make a like a Breton brim and just cut bits out of them. But my plan for this one is to see what interesting shapes I can end up with by cutting into it and twisting it into various ways with the wire. How's it looking? Oh, Sherry, yes. Interesting millinery books to recommend. I have a page on my old website, which maybe Matthew can find it and pop it in the description. So Matthew, if you go to the cooking website that I used to run, there's a page under something called my library of reference books. And there's a whole list of millinery and sewing books, because I'm also a seamstress, that I've listed essentially every single book that I have. That doesn't mean they're all good, but I just like to have a list of everything that I own, books-wise, just to know. And maybe, Matthew, if you can find it on the ilona.me.uk website, that would be a useful thing to pin to the top of the chat. Michael, I don't know if it's Michael or Michelle, but says that you're rearranging your apartment for a bit more hat storage. I think we all probably need to do that, don't we? Yes, thanks Rachel from La Bricoleuse. Yes, SH Millinery has some book review videos. Oh, I think I'm running out of water in my steamer. Oh, this isn't going as well as I would have liked. I'm not sure which direction to pull. Do I pull forwards? Do I pull the edges together, side to side? Yeah, I don't think the clothes pegs are going to hold it strong enough, and I might just have to pin it. Oh, I really don't want to be doing that. I just really do not want to be pinning. Oh, okay, I think I figured it out. So I was really focusing on pulling it around. And I think what's going to have to happen is actually I'm going to have to pull it in this direction. The problem with chat is I still don't know if that's Michael or Michelle. Should we do it this way? If it's Michael, say 1, and if it's Michelle, put 2 in the chat, and then I'll know, so that I know how to say it correctly, because it's silly to get people's names wrong. Lisa says, my instinct would be to pull towards the inside of the ring, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. Okay, well, let's try pull to the inside of the ring and see what happens. I might have to go and refill my steamer in a second. Do you know, I actually, on second thoughts, this might have been easier in felt. Aha, Ayşe from Turkey, hello! Basting and gathering, that's quite a sewing technique. I don't know if we would really do that in millinery. Maybe Rachel has an answer for that. Rachel from La Bricoleuse. Okay. Well, it's a bit late because I don't have any sewing supplies here, but maybe that's something else to try. D-craft clips tend to have a bit more hold than clothespins, if you have any. I don't know what that is. Is that like a quilting thing, maybe? Because I know there's lots of different type of clippy things you can get for quilting. I tend to not like buying lots of new stuff, so I always try and experiment with what I have on hand in my home. And then if I find that I like a particular technique, then I might then go and purchase a specialist item, but I'd never start by buying a specialist item, because how do I know if I'm going to even like using it? I don't, so... Aha! Hello from Argentina, and Rachel also says, sewing techniques can be helpful with buckram manipulation because it's got a weave structure. Is it not too tough to stitch it? And Lisa says, I've never blocked with felt. Is it similar technique to cineme? Yes, Lisa, it is. Now the difference is felt doesn't have a grain, so you can pull it in all directions. And I will be blocking with some wool felt once we're done with this buckram. So maybe in about, I don't know, how long do we think this is gonna take me? I mean, hopefully it takes 20 minutes. If it doesn't take 20 minutes, then I might just set it aside. Aha, okay. Oh, I have gone off the grain. Can you guys see what's happening here? Look, I've kind of twisted forwards on this side, and I've hardly got any fabric here, so I'm going to have to try and manipulate it and distribute it into the other direction. Yeah, you can see on the underside that I haven't been focusing on. Should I zoom that camera in? Can you guys see okay if I zoom in? Should we zoom in? Let's do that. There we go. Ah, yes, the spritzing with cold water and letting dry with buckram. That is, I think, how you're supposed to do it. But when I tried doing it that way with water, I always found that the buckram got too wet and too sticky. And then it would stick to my fingers. And the worst thing in the world for me, like we've all got things that we just don't like. And the thing that I really don't like is having sticky fingers. So I don't like to eat with my fingers, and I cannot stand sticky fingers. I'd rather wear gloves if I'm doing something like that. So if I can find a way to make a material not sticky, then I will do it that way, and that's this steaming way, because my hands are slightly sticky, but they're not overly sticky that I feel absolutely disgusting. Is the strip on the bias? Yes, the strip is on a bias. And the size of my bias strip is this kind of measurement, this round ring measurement here, going around this way, plus a couple of centimeters. I apologize to all of the Americans watching. I'm a metric girl, so I'm sorry I don't quite understand inches, so everything's in centimeters that I say. But it's this way round plus a couple of centimeters, and then this way round on the outer rim of the block. That measurement, plus a couple of centimeters for overlap. Right, just checking here. So I've got a few folds in it, but I think I'm always going to end up with a few folds since I'm using clothes pegs. I'm going to run out of space in the middle. Oh well. How are we doing for steam? Okay, let's turn that back on. It's got a bit dry while I've been chatting away. Aha, wonder clips, crafting clips for quilting. Okay, I will definitely look into that. Don't worry about finding a link. I'm sure I'll have to find something that is in the UK anyway, so. A bit of gentle steaming because it's become dry as I've been chatting away. Isn't this fun? I love this. It's like having you all here in my studio chatting away to me, and I don't have to have the radio on for entertainment. This is great. Oh, just a note for myself, Matthew, I think we did have a video request for an antique block restoration. If you could make a note for me somewhere, otherwise I will forget, and that would be a shame. I've been having a few problems with my memory lately, actually. So I really need to write everything down. I've just suddenly been unable to remember things. Rachel says, I'm a Wonder Clip convert. I bought some at the beginning of the pandemic and they're fantastic. Okay. Okay, so pulling in, or rather kind of pushing, pulling, stretching in this central direction has worked a lot better than around this way. So I think what we've learned is that to get started, it's okay to pull it forwards like this. But then when you get round maybe a third, maybe when you get round a fifth of the way, that's when it's time to start pinching it into the middle. Rachel, have you got a video on using Wonder Clips in millinery? Ooh, my steamer's run out of water. Bear with me while I just fill it up. This might... Lots of sound. Let me just... Whoops. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I stood up and the table shook. While the steamer's heating up again, you can see that I have really gone off grain here. So this pencil line, this was a marking that I put in so that I could cut on the true bias when I was cutting this bias strip out. And you can see it's kind of started over here and it's currently worked its way round to end up on the center there, and that's not good. I need to try and fix it and keep on the true bias. Otherwise we'll have problems when we take it off the block and it will go all wonky. Okay, I shall have to look up that video with the clips onto the plate. That's a really clever idea. I hadn't thought of that. I guess that means you can block on things that you can't pin into. A bit like this, or rather, well, I mean, I could pin into this, I'm just terrified of doing so. Oh, no, we're still off center there. Rotate that a bit more. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would, you know, this ring block blocking. But I guess it would be much quicker with felt. Blocking hats on flower pots, yes, that is definitely a trick mentioned in a lot of vintage millinery books. What did you use to hold everything in place, Rachel? Did you use those Wonder Clips as well, or pins, or how did you do it? Because I've got a plant pot I'm thinking of blocking on. Yes. That is the problem, Michelle or Michael. I'm still not sure how to say your name. I'm so sorry. Oh, my kitten's come to say hello. Hello, kitten. yes, blocking on a vintage block can be really terrifying. I think what I always say to myself with vintage blocks, or anything vintage really, is that if it's come into your possession, and you now own it, and you're the caretaker. Whoops, is my kitten causing havoc? 1 second. I don't know if my kitten is causing havoc. She might need some food. Husband, if you could come. Oh, okay, yes, thanks, Matthew. Yes, could you feed the cat? You have to meow at her. We've taught our cat that if she's hungry, she needs to meow to ask for food, but she hasn't quite got it. But we still meow at her when we feed her. There we go. Oh. Yes, at 5 months. How old's Drusilla? Drusilla's also 5 months. She had her spay last Wednesday, so she's wearing one of those cones of shame. But she's doing really well. Wow, all 5 cats. Amazing. I would love to have 5 cats. I don't have the space for 5 cats. Okay, I've got to the stage where it's now overlapping. Aha! So, Rachel, you say that you didn't even use wonder clips on your flower pot. Just an elastic band. Yep, I guess that makes sense. Did you ever have problems with elastic bands snapping or anything? Because every now and again, when I try and use an elastic band as a like a blocking spring, it snaps. Okay, I'm going to have to start taking out some of these ones so that I can overlap and pull together. Oh, Matthew, could you see if maybe you could add Rachel as a moderator for the chat? Because then I think she... What's wrong? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, no. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Technical issues. Yes, what was I saying? Oh, I don't know what I was saying. We'll just keep blocking. Can you guys see everything okay? Have you got any questions about the buckram or the ring or anything? Oh, I've remembered what I was saying. Oh, sorry, that was a bit loud. Yes, with this coming off the block, what I will do is I will film a follow-up of taking it off the block because it will take some time to dry. And then I'll upload that as a standard video at some point when I get round to it because I've gone slightly off schedule with my videos, which isn't great because I do like to plan ahead and do things ahead. So I will post that. Sherry asks, where do I shop for my vintage antique blocks? What usually happens is, well, firstly, I've set up an eBay alert for anything that's a vintage block that comes up for auction on eBay in my area. And then I will just sit and bid on it for a fair price. I'll answer Lisa's question in 1 second when I finish with the vintage antique blocks. The other thing to do is to go to antique fairs, because sometimes what you'll find is blocks are being sold as household decoration objects when they are perfectly functional blocks to use. Kitten, please don't eat the wires. No, no, no. Don't eat the wires. And obviously you have to check them for woodworm, but I guess I can discuss that in a video about antique blocks, so we'll answer that here. Rachel says estate sales are a great way. Yep. I don't know if the UK has an equivalent of estate sales, but essentially people tend to put them up on eBay. Martha asks, can you block a turban? Yes, you can. You have blocked turbans and freeform turbans. I have a video on, sorry, not freeform turbans, but like draped turbans. I have a video on turbans. Maybe Matthew can post it into the chat. So you can have a look at that. You can block a turban in the sense that sometimes you can get turban blocks. Oopsie. 1 second, everybody. Okay, she's going to sit in the wires but not chew them. Well, here's the finished blocking process. It's got a few bumps, like I said, from the Clingfilm, but we're going to ignore those and pretend that they didn't happen. If this was a final finished hat piece, I would obviously not have carried on. I would have taken it off and tried to re-Clingfilm. What I'm going to do now is put this to one side to dry. Now, because this is Buckram, it's going to take a while to dry. I would leave it for about 24 hours just to be on the safe side. Obviously, it depends on your climate. What you can do is to know whether it's dry or not, you can put it up against your cheek. And if it feels cold, then it's still wet. And if it feels room temperature and you can't feel a difference between putting it on your cheek and taking it off, then it's dry. That's a really good way to tell. Just like with wall plaster. Okay, I'm going to put this to one side. Oh dear. Then I'm going to take a tea break. Is everyone still drinking coffee? Rachel, with the fan, does that not maybe ruin the wood in some way? Because I've heard some people say that if you heat the wood and then you cool the wood very fast, it wine, very fancy. If you heat the wood and cool the wood, then the wood is more prone to splitting faster. Yeah. I leave my Buckram overnight, yeah. It's just good to be on the safe side. I guess unless you were really rushed for time. Oh, I'll just finish my cup of tea and then we'll do the next block. Oh, I never finished my thought about, you know, blocking on antique blocks and how that can be scary. I mean, yes, it is scary. What's the worst that can happen? It could split and fall apart, and that would be tragic, but at the same time, if it did that, I always think items that are made to be used should be made to be used. I sometimes have a bit of a problem when I see things in museums that are from quite recent history, and like every museum has this kind of thing, like every single museum, and there's a lot of museums in London. And then you just think, okay, well that's sitting there behind the glass getting dusty. And on the one hand, I understand the need to preserve things and to keep things to look at for future generations, and I get that. And I think we should be doing that with specific objects. But some objects, you look at them and you think, that's a dead object. It's not being used. It's just sat there behind some glass. No one's getting joy out of wearing it or using it or anything like that. Yes, exactly, Michael. The hat block died doing what it loved. Exactly. But the other thing is if you have an antique hat block that you absolutely love, you can take it to a hat block maker to clone it. Obviously, that's going to set you back some money, but if you love the hat block that much, you could do that. So if this ring block that I just blocked on, if I grow to love it a lot and I want to keep using it and it breaks, then I will take the pieces to a block maker and say, I really love this block, could you make me a new one? And they would do that because that's the art. And block making in the UK is it's an endangered craft. So there's an endangered crafts list here in the UK, and block making is an endangered craft. So we should be supporting our local block makers by giving them orders, by visiting them, by talking to them about the craft, letting milliners know about block making as being an integral part of the millinery process, because yes, Rachel, we can make it ourselves with bandages and two-part foam, yes, and I'm all for that. I think that's a great way to do it if you're just starting out. But if you're making money from your millinery and you can afford it, you can split that cost of a wooden block over several client orders, especially if you're making a collection of maybe you're making a collection and you're making 20 hats from one block for that season, and you want to invest in a block. You can split that cost across all those hats if you know you're going to sell them. Like, some of us don't have the luxury of that, but the people that have the luxury of having that business income, that's a great way to support block makers. I did not know that. However, they're really hard to get hold of, as are traditional flower tools. Yes, traditional flower tools are super hard to get hold of. Yeah, I guess flower making is just a whole separate topic all in itself, and I will cover that in another live stream if this is popular. Yeah, so we can talk about flower tools another time, but now I'll put my tea down. Still haven't finished it. Shari, with the block makers across the pond, you'll have to maybe message them and ask. I think there are 1 or 2 block makers across the whole of the US. You might have to do some research. I mean, obviously it will be easier to it would definitely be easier to do business with people on your own continent, but if you wanted to, you can contact some block makers in the UK. Off the top of my head, you've got Boone and Lane in the UK and Guy Morse Brown. There's a few others. I have a video on making your own hat blocks where I list block makers that you can go to as well to make hat blocks in the description box. So if you find it, I think it's my 2-part foam hat block. I talk about blocks in that video, so you can have a look at the description and there'll be a list there. Oh, how sweet! Mini wooden hat blocks for dolls. That's so sweet. Right, shall we move on? Let's find the next thing to do. Would you guys like to see a beret block, a 5-piece beret block, or would you guys like to see a modified crown and a brim block separately? Oh, did I just cut out? Oh no! Husband? Have we got issues? Oh, okay, no, I'm still, okay. Okay, we're still live. Great.
You're still online?
We're still online,
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
Great,
All fine.
all good. Kitten's asleep. Okay, I'm back. Great. Maybe something happened to the internet cables. Okay, modified, we've had one vote for modified crown. One day I should learn how to do polls on a live stream, but that's not gonna happen today. Because there's already too much that I've learned and my head is a bit, whoa, full of all the technology stuff. Should we do modified crown block? Okay, let me get that one. Here it is. This is a standard crown block. Let me show it to you. This is, I think, this is a 22-inch crown block, which is larger than my head. So I'm not making this hat for me, I'm making this hat as an experiment. And it came with, once again, that's a vintage hat block. It came with this spinner. Now a spinner is different to one of these. I can't remember what one of these is called, but this is called a spinner. It's kind of short and stumpy, and one of these is long and it looks a bit like one of those not toilet roll holders, the ones you use in the kitchen. Kitchen roll holders, which you can actually use a kitchen roll holder as a blocking stand. As long as you find one that's got a good base, you can use that. This is a proper blocking stand. And this is a spinner, short and stout. And the spinners tend to have a slightly, I think it's a wider, hang on. Yes, the spinner has a wider knob, because this block has got a wide hole that slits on like that. So this is the block, and by modified crown I mean this little thing. We're going to add this point to this crown. So what we've got to do is we've got to mark out some measurements on the crown, find the correct position for this pointy bit, and then secure it all in place and then block on it. So let's make a start on that. To give you some context, actually, a while back I made this hat, which is the hat from one of the Harry Potter films. It's the bow baton school uniform hat, except it's purple because purple is fun. And I just want to make sure that I can replicate it, because I've made it once, but I want to be able to sell this model, so I've got to make sure that I can replicate it. And when I finished blocking in that video, I took this tip, let me switch the camera angle. I took this tip over here, and this is from the video. If you guys have seen the Bow Baton's modified crown video, you'll recognize this curl of rope. And what I did is when I was finished, I don't really want to take it apart because it's all glued together, but you can see here some stitching lines. Let's just, whoops, try and focus that. There we go. There we go, some stitching lines here around the edge. I stitched it all together, covered it in some stiffener just to give it extra form. And then this stuff over the top, this is Foss shape. If you don't know what Foss shape is, it's a whole other video. I am planning on doing that this year at some point, but it's a thermoplastic material. Plastic's bad, yes, let's try and not use plastic materials, but sometimes they have their uses, and this is one of them, because it goes hard with addition of heat. And it's just there to keep the shape so that I can keep replicating the pointy crown that you've just seen. Now what I need to do is get this block and mark it out, because this tip, let's refocus. Hopefully that's focused. This tip doesn't just plonk on top anywhere, it sits 2/3 to the side of the block. So I've got a pencil and some masking tape, and I've also got some nail vinyl tape, because this stuff is great for marking out blocks. So we'll be using all of that. Should we pick a colour? I'm going to go for pink and glittery today. The first thing to do is to figure out where the front and back is. So the previous owner of this block has marked where the front is. I'm just going to make that a little bit more obvious for myself. With a pencil. You can do it with a pen, but I just think it's nicer with a pencil because you can always rub it out. Can we get a close-up of your nails? Husband, you know what my nails look like, but here they are. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I do like to do my nails. Is that gonna focus? Let's try this way. It's not gonna focus that close. But yeah, I like to do my nails, and these are very special nail polishes all the way from America, and I really like them. They're really sparkly. Anyway, let's get back to the hatting. So I've marked my front. There's a line here which looks like a bit of a crack. Mazon Amgard says, did you know that yesterday or today is International Hat Day? I did not. Now, there's a few hat days around the world. There is St. Catherine's Day, which is also an International Hat Day. That's got, oh, thanks, Lisa. Thanks for admiring my nails. Oh, Matthew says yesterday, apparently, but we could be in a slightly different time zone. I'm not quite sure how the time zones work. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we could be in a different time zone. But yes, International Hat Days, there's lots of them. Oh, thanks, Michael. Yes, there's lots of International Hat Days, I think, and I'm not really sure where they all come from. Yes, Rachel, 25th or 23rd. 25th is probably more correct, but I do have a video on making silk lilies with flower tools for St. Catherine's Day, because the white lily is a symbol for St. Catherine, but we won't get into that. There's it's quite a tragic story, as most saint stories are. Maybe that'll be another video. Right, once again, back to the hat block. There's this line here that looks like, just refocus just in case. This line here that looks like it's a bit of a crack in the block, so I do have to be careful. And then there does look like there's a marking line here in the middle. There's a line there and a line there, and it continues here. And I'm just going to guess this one. Normally I'd measure it, but I don't know where all my rulers are. Now what I want to do is to stick a line from the front to the back using that nail vinyl tape. Okay, so I've drawn on my pencil markings. Let's see if this will stick. Sometimes the nail vinyl tape sticks and sometimes it doesn't. Oh, where are my glasses? I've got to find the end of this. And we'll be here for half an hour looking for the end of this tape. Yes, Rachel, that is an issue when you're working with tools. You see, you may have noticed I've got short nails today. I broke a nail yesterday. That's why they're so much shorter than usual. They're half the size. But oh well, never mind. I normally wear gloves if I'm working with power tools and things like that, just to protect them. Whoops, sorry, I hit the table again there. Okay, I'm going to pop this on the block, on the spinner even. Let's see if I can do this. Sometimes you can find masking tape. I'm going to leave myself quite a bit to stick to the underneath of the block as well, so that it's got a good grounding. Is it gonna stick? Oh, it's not wanting to stick. There we go. Oh, that's not centered. Ideally, I would have tried to find the center of the block. This sometimes works better with thin masking tape. You can buy super thin masking tape, or maybe like thin electrical tape or something. Or you could just draw straight on the block, but because it's an antique block, even though it's got all these pen marks on it, which I don't know what they're from, I don't really want to draw on it. Just making sure that it's all lining up by eye. The thing with millinery is that sometimes you think, oh, it needs to all be exact, and sometimes that is the case. It really does need to be exact and measured. And sometimes you can just get away with doing it by eye and no one will notice except for you. Rachel says, at the theatre I oil all the antique blocks at the end of the season so it has several months to condition the wood. That's a really good idea. I'd never thought of doing that. I guess you would use like mineral oil like you would on a chopping board. What if you varnish the block? Like from modern block makers, they tend to come varnished with like 5 layers of varnish. So, oh, sorry about that noise. I'm tempted, I have been tempted for a while with some of these antique blocks to condition them, let them dry out with the oil, with the conditioned oil, and then I'm using the masking tape to secure the tape underneath. And then once the oil is dry, to varnish them, like sand them down and re-varnish them a little bit. Employ some woodworking skills that I learnt at school. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the first line. And then I'm going to do the quarter line. Sorry, not, well, the quarter line over the top, I guess. All my blocks are varnished, but I think oil would be a great idea for the old ones. Yeah, I'm tempted to try it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll pick one to experiment on the underside, because that bit doesn't matter so much, and see how it takes it. And then if it does well, then I can do it to the top of it, and I'll know it'll work then. Like doing a tester patch. Oh, Rachel, you've got some that are varnished too. I'm guessing you don't oil the varnished ones. Whoops, I'm really sorry for the noises the block is making when I'm rotating it. So, on the top of this block, I can see where the center is. You can see that for some reason there's some round bits on the top. Or actually, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but I can see on the camera. Whoops, that moved. I'm going to do this slightly differently on the other side, using the masking tape. Oh, thanks, husband. Yep, the noises are fine. Okay. I'm just going to use some masking tape to secure it on the side. This is mega concentration time, just to get some straight-ish lines. Okay. Just securing that one there. Okay. So I've got my things marked out on the top. Now, on my little piece, I've marked the front and back. So, where was the front and back on this one? Oops. Well, I've put tape over it now. I can't remember where the front and back was. That's the front. Okay. The front is facing me. So I've got my front and back marks on here, so it's not going to go straight on the top. Okay, Rachel, thanks for joining. See you soon. See you at the next stream. So I want to move this to the side and I want to move it slightly back. I kind of want that front and back to run. I think I'm going to just have to estimate it. Or, husband, could you bring me Anne from the corridor? I think she's in the corridor. Because Anne had the marks. Anne is my poupée head. She's got the marks on her from where this came from, so I can transfer the markings onto this wooden block. Ah, thanks. Great. This is Anne. You can all take guesses on why her name is Anne. Think famous heads. Right, so Anne's got these markings on. Let me get my tape measure. So I can see on Anne where this knobbly bit came from. So it is kind of centered. And then about 7 centimeters from the center. Now, because it's going to be slightly bigger, I'll just kind of go maybe 7.2, 7.3 to the side. Yeah, just a little bit there. There we go. Oops. Okay, that's going to be that line. And then we're slightly more forwards. Okay. Let's bring this back into camera shot. There it is. So I've marked on 7 and a bit there, you can see. Just 7 and a bit. And that's going to be kind of the end of this. That's going to go slightly over the side and here. I mean, this isn't very scientific and perhaps I should be a little more scientific. Okay, I need to rotate it now. Rotate it so that it's facing me. Like this. Front to back, check. Oh no, that's not equidistant from the middle line. That looks a bit more equidistant there. I'm going to measure it. That's about 3. And that's about 3. Perfect. Now I just need to stick it down. Oops, I wasn't prepared. Let's get some masking tape. I could pin it, but I'm terrified of pinning into the wood and ruining it, even though it's got lots of pin marks in it. So I'm just going to pop some masking tape on. Just at least to hold a little bit. And then I will, once it's stuck down, I will look at it from all the angles and compare it to the hat and just see if it's the same. Did that move? I think it moved. Yep. There we go. Is that still 3? It all moved a little bit. There we go. It should be there. Oh no, going over the top of the point was not a good idea. So I don't want the masking tape lines to end up being too part of the... Do you know, this is harder than I thought. Once again, this is something I'm just trying for the first time to see if I can get it to work. How's everyone doing? Not bored yet of me rambling on? Okay, I've discovered it's easier to go around the side like this rather than try and go over the top. Thanks, Lisa. I'm glad you're watching happily. Is anyone else blocking at the same time or just me? Okay, just a little more masking tape. Okay, we've got a few creases in the masking tape, which is not great. I'm just trying to even it out. Doing chores. That doesn't sound fun. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now I've got some pins poking out here. I'm just going to take them out. They were kind of holding it together. I'm just popping them into my lab coat. You might be wondering why I'm wearing a lab coat. That will become apparent. Because you really should wear an apron when blocking, because you're going to be using your stomach sometimes to hold things in place as you pull, but we'll see that in a second. So I think I'm ready to cover this in cling film. Oh, no, not yet. Let's compare the shapes. So this is the original. So if I just hold, oh, there we go. That's that one. The front is pointing to me. This one, the front is pointing to me. Let me see, does that look similar? Does it look similar to you guys? Obviously the height's different. Okay. I mean, we're missing a slight dimple in this side, but hopefully I'll be able to press that in. Check it from the side view. I'm gonna have to drop my eye line. I'm still here, everyone. I'm just looking at the, oh, okay, I've gone slightly wrong, I think. It's too central, or is it? Oh, maybe it's not. Well, oh, is it slightly too central? So what I'm doing is I'm just checking with my eyes to see if it all lines up. So if I hold it behind. Yeah. Oh, it'll be similar enough. Okay, I guess let's fire up the steamer and get going. Now, considering it took me so long to do these two, I'm probably gonna carry on live streaming until 6 o'clock my time, so that's another 50 minutes. Hopefully that's enough to do the top crown. But then we might have to do another live stream next week to finish off what I wanted to do today. Right, so let's pop Anne away. Any ideas on why she's called Anne yet? Add some water to my steamer. So once again, this is filtered water. There we go. Well, that's definitely on. Clingfilm. Let's not forget the Clingfilm this time. To help Clingfilm stick, sometimes, I've been told this, yes, it is after Queen Anne. Well, not quite Queen Anne, but Anne Boleyn. Because Anne Boleyn lost her head. So that's Anne Boleyn over there. I have another head who I've called Charlie. You'll have to figure that one out as well. Alright, so sometimes we want to spray the block with a bit of water. Obviously, that's going to dry out the wood, so you don't want to be doing this every time, but I'm a bit desperate with this cling film and it doesn't stick to the block, so just from a distance. That's just damp enough. Oh, Clingfilm's going to make noise again. We'll go this way and it might need a second layer. Do you guys name your poupée heads, or is that just me? In sewing you name mannequins. Oh, I doubt Anne Boleyn's having a good laugh. Or maybe she is. She was quite the party queen. Oh, it's still not quite sticking as well as I would like it to. You know what, it's tempting to use some masking tape to hold it down. Oh, this cling film is awful. It's not even sticking to itself, it's ridiculous. Shari says that you don't yet have a poupée, but you do intend to name it. Great. I think naming things is fun. I've named my dress form Claudia. There's no story behind that. I just like the name. This isn't going too well, is it? Undo that. It's definitely going to need a second layer of cling film going the other way. I don't want to end up with those cling film overlaps. Sherry says that you've known a couple of women, lovely women named Claudias. See, I don't know any Claudias. Oh, and if you're wondering where my knowledge of history comes from, my mother is a tour guide here in London. She's a Blue Badge guide. And she used to practice on me when I was younger, when she was getting qualified. So all that history knowledge rubbed off on me, but I myself am not a historian, but my mum's very good. She does great tours. They're really fun. So if you're ever in the UK, you can find my mum and ask her to give you a tour of historic places in and around London. And my dad also does tours. He's a Beatles tour guide. So if you want a Beatles tour, you can come and find him for a Beatles tour. Okay, I'm really pulling on the cling film here. I hope this is a good enough view for everyone. I'm really pulling on the cling film to try and get rid of these kind of this build up, but I'm hoping it won't be too much of an issue because hopefully the felt is thick enough to not really display too much of that. This is awful cling film. Oh. But I don't want to not use it because I have it. Yes, Michael, yes. Come visit London. London's great. I love London. born here, grew up here, absolutely love London as a city. So when you are in London, you can message me and I can pop you in touch with my mum for some tours. Oh, excuse me while I fix my hair bun. Oh, you want to hear my history? Maybe I could do a video on that. I have had an interesting life. It's been a bit unconventional. Right, good enough, I guess. Yes, hi Rachel, welcome back. Let's pop the steamer back on. Get rid of this awful cling film. I cannot wait till that roll of cling film is used up. It's awful, awful stuff. Right. Here's the black hood cape clean that I'm going to be, Maison et Garde, not Beakers, Beatles, as in like the 1960s group. So this is the cape clean that we are, do you want to put my dad's website in the chat? BeatlesInLondon.com, I think, Matthew, if you look it up. And my mum as well. Anyway, this is the cape clean that I'm going to be blocking today. I stiffened this using a chemical straw stiffener called, which one was it? It was Futrex. So if you haven't seen my last video, I reviewed some PR samples sent to me from a Belgian stiffener company. So this is ready for blocking. What I'm going to do is steam this. So in fact, I'll pop it in the steamer now so it gets nice and damp. That's going on the side there. That'll take a while to absorb all the steam. I'm going to pull it over the top, fix it in place, and then with the brim section, I will cut that off once it's dry and block the brim on a brim block, and maybe we can do that next week in another live stream. Or maybe not next week, I don't know. We'll have to fit another live stream in because this is so much fun. Who thought it would be so much fun? I'm just gonna pour myself a cup of tea. Good question, Lisa. So for blocking with felt, would you always use a cape clean and have to stiffen it? The answer is very unhelpful, and that answer is it depends. So, you have to go by the feel of it. Now, if you're in America, some cape cleans come, oh, let me move this out of the way, otherwise that's going to get covered in steam. All this cardboard box things. If you're in America, some cape cleans that are made in America are pre-stiffened with a powder stiffener that activates as you steam it, so you can't always tell. So I'm not the best person to ask about that if you're buying your supplies from America. But in the UK, things tend to always be labeled clearly, whether they're pre-stiffened or if they're unstiffened. So go by the feel, and you can always stiffen. Do I teach? I'll answer that question in a second. You can always stiffen after blocking if you're not sure. So if you're not sure, block it, take it off the block, feel it. If it doesn't feel stiff enough for you, brush some stiffener in on the inside. It's not going to hurt it. And you probably don't want it rock solid, so you'll go by feel. What else was I wanting to say? So essentially, it depends. I've stiffened this one, even though it said it was pre-stiffened, but I just didn't trust it. We'll see when it's done. It might be rock solid. And if it's not, then I think the brim is probably going to need extra stiffening, which I mentioned in my stiffener review video. The So this is a wool felt. Sometimes I'm just rotating it to evenly distribute the steam. With a fur felt, which is a whole different material, it's similar but it's not the same. It has similar properties, but it will stretch differently, it will stiffen slightly differently. And I will be blocking with some fur felt in an upcoming video at some point. Sometimes those come pre-stiffened as well, but you just can't tell. It's about what you want and how you wish to interpret millinery rules. The stiffener, all it's going to do is it's going to help it hold its shape if it's a funny shape. So sometimes if you're blocking a plain crown, you might decide that you don't want any stiffener at all because there's nothing complicated for it to hold. But if you're blocking a crown with a point like this, you might think, oh, that's a fancy detail. You're going to want to pop some stiffener on the hood so that it holds its shape. A few more things to keep in mind. This black hood over here, I'm steaming it from the inside, not from the outside. And I'm waiting for it to get super saturated with steam so I can show you. Oh, whoopsie. 1 second, I can't show you because apparently I've run out of battery. Give me 1 second, everyone. We're back on? I think we're back online. Yay! Let's just focus that. Or rather, we'll be up here, so focus that. Is that in focus? Yeah. Okay, great, we're back. I'm just wondering what best to use, as I've never used felt before and I'd like to block a headband crown, if that makes sense. I'm not sure what you mean by a headband crown. So if you want to clarify that, chat. Sorry, just charging the batteries for the camera. I was going to show you, before I answer that, here's, you can see, this is all that steam saturation on the inside. This is very hot, by the way. Asbestos fingers come into play again. It's not quite damp enough for my liking. This is one of the major differences between wool felt and fur felt, is that wool felt takes a lot more steam than the fur felt. The fur felt is like butter, it will just melt over the block, but wool felt needs a little more extra tugging and a little more extra steam. And sometimes what you can do to help the steam come along is use a spray bottle, which I wouldn't recommend on lighter felts because sometimes that can discolor the stiffener and it could stain, depending on the stiffener that you're using. But I'm just going to, this is black, so I'm not worried too much, but I would think twice before doing this on like that purple hat that I showed you earlier, or a white one even. I'd really worry about doing that, but it's black, it's not going to show up, it's fine. What question was I answering? I can't remember. We'll just wait for this to steam. And ideally, it would take in one steamer's lot of steam. I don't know what the volume of this steamer is, but I know that for my equipment, one steamer's set of steam is usually enough. And it's coming to the end, so soon it'll be ready. Oh, a rounded bandeau block. I know exactly what you mean. I think. Matthew, darling husband, can you bring me from the blocking cupboard the bandeau block? Does my husband know what a bandeau block is? Let's find out. Wrong, that's not a bandeau block. It's the one that looks like a semicircle. Yes, correct. Okay, just pop that there. We'll talk about bandeau blocks in a second, but right now I'm time poor. So this is now go, go, go over the top here. Let's switch camera view. There it goes. It needs to keep that steam, so I'm just going to pull down. And this is why I'm wearing a lab coat, because I'm going to now use my stomach to hold and pull like this. Oh, yes, yours about the felt, because you've never blocked with it before, Lisa. Yes, thanks for reminding me. Did I answer your question? About the felt? Essentially, I know it's unhelpful. Go with how you feel is a very unhelpful thing, especially for beginners, because believe me, I've been there. I've had that question asked. Oh, no, I love your questions. No, I won't ignore questions. Send me all your questions, everyone. Never think, this is something I learnt in my education when I was younger. Oh, I'd better add to the steamer water. There is no such thing as a stupid question. All questions are valid. I'm just going to pop and get some more water. Oh, thank you. You're being very helpful, husband. Some more water. Ooh, overfilled the steamer. Overfilled the steamer. It'll spit in a second. Yes, no questions are stupid questions. Every question is valid. Doesn't matter what stage of your millinery process you're in. Every question is valid. All the time. Great, that's good to know, Lisa. Something that you might want to look into is, at the moment, I'm just going to pause while I wait for the steamer to heat up again. There are a lot of milliners offering video courses online. So if you've never worked with felt before, I recommend looking up your local millinery teacher and asking them if they would maybe do a one-to-one session with you for felt. Yeah, I think that's the most helpful thing I can say, because I learned millinery. I started on a course that was just a fun thing to do, and nothing really replaces that kind of one-to-one teaching. Rachel says, my instinct would be to look for flat felt yardage because the shape doesn't have a lot of complex curvature. Ooh, I haven't gotten ready the things I actually need to hold this down. So I have a selection of things here. I've got some rubber bands. That's too small, that's too small, that's too small. Oh, that looks like it might be big enough. And then I've got some pins, which I don't really feel like using today because I'm being lazy, and some blocking cord. I'll just use the blocking cord. Is that going to be big enough? Yes, okay, I'm going to be using blocking cord to block today, not blocking pins, because I can't be bothered with thimbles. Whoops! Ha! Yes, the steamer did spit water everywhere. So what I'm doing here is just steaming from the outside, following the curvature of the block, just giving the felt some extra shaping to help it find the curves in the block. Yeah, that's great, Lisa. Yes, millinery courses are super expensive, and sometimes it is easier to teach yourself. if it's of any help, I started by making a felt button hat, which I would show you if I could remember where I put it because I've kept it. It's the first hat I ever made. Please excuse me. Getting a towel for the steamer. I overfilled it and it's spitting everywhere. Right, let's see if we can pull this down a bit. There we go. It's going now. Yes, Maison Imgard, exactly. That's pretty much how I learned. So after I did that first course, where I learned how to do a felt button, I went off and thought about things for a long time. And then I gradually got into making some shapes and just experimenting with things. And I will say that felt is not my favorite material. Felt has some great properties. Okay, we're going to pause that conversation and actually concentrate on what we're doing. I'm going to use my stomach, my abs here, to push down on the block. Let's switch camera views. To push down on the block like this and pull down. And that's going to form this curve on the front. And I'm holding this tip as well. I could pin into the tip, but I don't really want to. So I'm just pulling and stretching as I go. And I think now is the time to maybe attempt to pop the blocking cord in, just to give me something to work against. Again, holding everything in place with my stomach. Too high up the felt. Let's take that down a bit. Ooh, this is tough. I don't normally work with capelines either. They are a little... Now what would have been easier is if I had a hood that was black and then a capeline to use for the brim of this hat, but never mind. Just a lot of juggling. A bit more. Ooh. See, there's, oh, I don't think you can see because it's black, but there's a fold in here. So I'm going to hold with my right hand the blocking cord and pull with my other hand downwards. Or maybe I should do it the other way, but oh, it's difficult to pull it down enough because I want to make sure. Let's measure this purple one quickly and see how. It's not going to be exact, but about 33 across. Okay. Ooh, okay. Got to pull down more. Okay. Maybe I should spray the outside. Let's spray the outside. It's clearly not saturated enough. This is where the spinner comes in useful, because what I'm doing is I'm just rotating it on the spinner. Again, I probably would not want to be doing this on a lighter felt because sometimes they can stain from the water. Oh, that's a little better. It's going. Oh. See, this sometimes millinery can be quite the workout. And I feel like I'm making this look harder than it actually is. This should be a lot easier. Okay, right, I think I'm getting somewhere with this. What's the difference between a cape clean and a hood? A cape clean is the bit that has the brim sticking out, which is what I'm using. And a hood, I'll show you a hood once I've finished with the cape clean, I'll show you what a hood is. It's just the cone without the brim attached to it. And for different shapes, you're going to want to select a different cape clean because you don't want to waste the material. I know you think that's helpful, husband, but it wasn't. My husband's just brought a cape clean in to show us. Okay. Oh gosh, yes. I think I'm going to be here a while. I have vague memories of someone saying to me that they put their cape cleans saturated in water or, you know, slightly damp into the freezer or the fridge for a little bit, and apparently that makes them more moldable, but I haven't been brave enough to try it. Has anyone else heard this before? Putting damp cape cleans in a fridge? Wool felt specifically. Trying to roll this down. You guys getting a good enough view? I hope you are. Once again, using my stomach to hold everything down. And this is why you want one of those stands, because it elevates your block. I think we're finally getting somewhere. And my steamer's about to run out of water again. But we're not quite there yet. Just a bit more added steam. You see, if this was fur felt, it would have just melted onto the block. But some people don't like to use fur felt because... Oh, Lisa, yes, go feed your child. Yes, of course. I'm glad you've enjoyed yourself today. Thanks for joining. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Felt, fur felt. Some people don't like to use fur felt. That's perfectly reasonable. If that's something that you don't want to do, you don't have to. Wool felt is perfectly good as an alternative. I've never used fur felt in a hat before, and I will be trying that. The way I think about it is that, for a start, in Europe, fur felt is a byproduct from the food industry. So I think in the Czech Republic, they eat a lot of rabbits for rabbit stew and things like that. We used to eat a lot of rabbits in the UK, but it's kind of gone out of fashion, so we don't really tend to see like rabbit stews in the UK anymore. But in Europe, it's a food industry byproduct. So you could say that you're preventing things from going to waste. Now, if you're not a meat eater, that's also not going to satisfy you. And obviously everyone should do what makes them feel happy and use the materials that they're comfortable with using. Yeah. Right, how's that looking? What do you think, guys? I think that point's looking pretty good. That looks like a pointy witch's hat. I'm going to try and hold that tension while I measure quickly across. Was it 33 centimeters I said it was? Yes, it was. This is almost 33 centimeters. Oh, squirrels, eating squirrels. That sounds a bit bony. Okay, I've let go of the tension, but that's okay. I need more water in here. I shall just go and grab some water. Wow, I'm going to need to pop this lab coat into the wash. I am covered in the black. I hope it's not gonna dye my lab coat. I liked my white pristine lab coat, but I definitely wouldn't want this on my blouse. All this black fluff. You can see my fingers are a little bit blackened on the edges as well. Oh well, dyes can do that from felts. They can seep onto hands and things. It doesn't mean it's not colour fast, it's just with the steam and the moisture and the pulling, you're going to have some of that colour rub off on you. No, don't tell the house rabbits, but house rabbits are very different from the rabbits from the food industry. I'm not an expert in this, you'll have to fact check me, but I think it's different types of rabbits. But anyway, we don't have to talk about that. That's not a very nice side of millinery, I think. Oh, tea break while the steamer goes. Oh, the steamer's going. But was this? Oh, I think this is a bandeau block. It is quite tough to block on. So if you're blocking your first hat, I wouldn't recommend one of these. This is like, you know, second, third, fourth hat blocking territory. Much easier to start on a crown or a button, something round that doesn't have this kind of corner shape to it, because this bit's hard to get good. Right. This is all steaming. So what I'm doing is just using the steamer and just adding a bit more steam into the places that I specifically want to pull, which is just under where this white cord is. So I just want to get that crown a little bit deeper, just so that I have space to play with. I think next time I would buy a separate cone and a thing. Oh, I was going to show you what a cone was. This is a cone. And this was the Cape Clean with the flare. You can also get a kind of amalgamation of the two, something in between, where the cone is like a flared cone. I think there's a name for them, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. So once again, using my stomach on the block, pulling the cord to the side and pulling the felt down. And then I can roll the cord down using my thumbs. Now, if I was using pins, I'd be wearing thimbles. So please, if you're using pins to block, always wear thimbles to protect your fingers. Because you might be able to do one hat without wearing thimbles, but think about it this way: if you were blocking, like, you know, 10 hats every single day, your fingers would be shredded without hat pins, without thimbles. So please wear thimbles if you're using pins. Okay, I'm almost happy with this side. Okay, I'm happy with this side. I think that looks far down enough. But now I want to slightly roll down this other side over here. So once again, kind of putting my stomach on top of it, rolling that cord down, pulling the cord, rolling the cord, rolling the cord, and then pulling the felt. That's looking pretty good. Pulling it super tight. Right, do we think that's even? Okay, it can now be, it can go down can go down a bit at the front and back now. So I think the sides look pretty even. I think you can see on there, the sides look pretty even. Pull and roll. I'll show you to the front, rolling it down. And then rolling the back and then pulling the back. Whew. I'm getting very warm with all this steam. Aha, I think I'm almost at the bottom of this block, so I can feel it with my finger. I can feel where the edge is. Oh, thanks, Rachel. I think it's going to be a beautiful hat too. It's not going to be in my size, so this hat is actually going to go on sale. Because it's one size too big for me. I have a tiny head, but the point of this was to see if I can recreate the shape that I made so that I can sell it in the future. Right. What I'm going to do is... Oh, okay, I can see actually one side is lower than the other. You can see that here. This bit looks like it's kind of dipping. So just push that bit down a little bit. And what you're aiming for is no creases in the felt. Right, so there's one crease in there. Okay, one last steam. And hopefully there's enough of an edge here to get a brim out of it. Because sometimes what people do is they'd buy 2 cape pleans and they'd use the top of one and the brim off another, because sometimes if you need a really tall crown, you're not going to have enough. And obviously sometimes it's difficult to replicate the colour, so you want to buy them at the same time from the same supplier. But I think I'm going to be okay. I hope I'm going to be okay. Okay. Right. That looks good. I'm going to turn off my steamer, and what I should have done is prep a pin. Let's find a pin. I have a special pin here. Let's switch camera angles. There we go. I have a special pin, which looks like this. This is my blocking cord pin, so it's a giant pin. And I'm just going to, once again, hold it with my stomach and pop the pin in between both. I'll show you in a second once I've put the pin in. It's got a nice big aperture on it, so I can press down on it. Let me take this off and show you. So I've put the pin in through both bits of cord, so it's holding it down nicely. Okay, pop that back to dry. So I'm going to pop this in my airing cupboard, because an airing cupboard or a utility cupboard with good ventilation, slightly warmer climate is great for drying the felt. And I'll unblock it tomorrow. And we'll see how that turns out. How much do I sell my hats for? That is a whole other video. Hat pricing is a minefield. If you want to see the kind of prices that I'm currently selling at, Matthew, can you pop a link to my website into the chat, byilona.co.uk. So that's my hat shop. You can have a look at the price in pounds. The prices are listed without postage, but that's around what I charge my hats at. I could make a video, if you wanted me to, into how I personally price my hats. I don't know if that's how everybody prices their hats, if it's the industry standard, but I can take you through the maths of some spreadsheets of how I calculate these things if anyone's interested. Okay, this is the finished hat. So, should we go over what we did today? This is, I think, we're coming up to 6 o'clock and that's almost 2 hours, so this is the one hat we did. This is the felt hat that has been pre-stiffened on a modified crown block, modified with the pointy tip. that's one object. And then the other object is this ring block over here, which we did on a bias strip of Buckram with holding it down with clothes pegs just to see if it would work. And we discovered here that yes, layering cling film does show through, and the most important thing with these ring blocks is to keep the grain lines aligned, to keep the bias on the true bias. And what helps with that is the pencil line over here. This pencil line helps because you can see how far away that's from the edge. It doesn't have to be super exact, but the more exact it can be, the better. And I also spoke a bit about how to know when Buckram is dry. You put it to your cheek. This is definitely still wet. I can feel that it's colder than room temperature, so it's going to need more time to dry. Oh, Mezan Imgard says the big wood hat blocks must be quite heavy. They are quite heavy. They are, yes, they are quite heavy. I don't know how else to expand on that. Sometimes you can get hollow hat blocks made out of, I think they're quite popular in Germany, like a wood composite. Oh, Rachel, you had did you have a video on pricing stuff? Maybe people can just go and watch yours, and then I don't have to worry about complicated maths. Although you're in the theatre industry, so you price things slightly differently, I think. Yeah. But Rachel, maybe what you can do after the stream is any videos that we've mentioned from you, or even from SH Millinery, maybe we can pop them. If you send them to me in a message, I'll put them in the description box, and maybe we can put together a playlist so that everyone can see everyone else's videos. I think that'd be quite nice. Okay, yeah, don't worry about that. Send me an Instagram and I'll pop them in the description box and we can make a combined playlist. Let's get people moving between all the milliners on YouTube. We all do different things. So Rachel's a theatrical milliner. So Rachel's skill set is much wider than mine. I just potter around and do buckram and fabric vintage style hats. And SH Millinery kind of does also everything, a wide variety of things. And then we've also got John from JWH Millinery, and he does like fashion collections and more of the kind of design and fashion side of stuff, and he's quite fun. So we'll leave a link to his channel as well, and you should go check him out. Everyone's a lot of fun. Oh yeah, thank you so much with the ring block. It was difficult. Well, I think I've run out of things to say, and I've also almost run out of tea, and my kitten looks like she's about to wake up and want her dinner, so I guess we should wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining me for 2 hours of live stream blocking. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all the good YouTube things that lets the algorithm know that I exist. This helps my video reach more people, and the more people we can get interested in millinery, the better, because it's also a dying art form. We need to get people interested in millinery, and we need to get people interested in wearing the hats that we make as well, which is what I'm all about. So make your hats, wear your hats. Share your hats, share your skills, share your techniques. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.